Well, this week saw President Cyril Ramaphosa present his State of the Nation report to Parliament in Cape Town. He reassured the country that Eskom would be brought to operational stability, and among other issues, he also noted government's intention to bolster small and medium enterprises. However, the Sovereign Wealth Fund has drawn different reactions from all quarters, and BCI came in at 4.5%, and Dudumiani has been in the dock. Well, for a look at this and other stories, we're joined by Ricus Reeders, who is Wealth Manager from PSG. Thank you very much for coming.
Hello, Colin.
All right. Well, starting with a State of the Nation address and looking at how it has been getting mixed reaction throughout the week, other people have been able to assimilate and, try to congest and digest the factors that came out of SONA. From your perspective, those who are saying that it was not delivering and those who are saying it was promising, with hindsight, do you think that the state of the nation currently is really promising for one to be upbeat and be enthusiastic about how government plans to turn the economy around?
One would like to think that, but if one takes a look at the hard, cold facts coming out of something like the CEO's business confidence indices that came out early last week, which dropped. People are concerned, and specifically business are concerned. And they are concerned about four things, and it's unemployment, and it's social instability, and also red tape, basically, and also, and government interference, over-regulation. And two of those are within government's capability to change, which is basically regulation and cutting away red tape, and that is not happening. And I think that leads to things like worries about whether it be unemployment or the social instability that we are seeing.
So now looking at how BCI as well as consumer price inflation came out, the figures are not really moving at a very fast pace. But for inflation to be where it is right now and for business confidence to be really low at the moment, does this really tell you where the country's economy is headed? Because surely if there is an improvement, you should see the green shoots.
Precisely that. Our inflation numbers were up for the second row, or the second time in 2 months. But if you take a look at core inflation, that's actually the lowest it's been since 2011. That excludes variables like the fuel or energy prices. And that just shows you how weak demand is in this country. And if you've got stuff on the shelf and nobody's buying it, that just means your consumer, the people who are actually the engine of the economy, those who buy things, are under pressure. And something has to be done in order to get that on the go. And as I've said just now, one of the things is to reduce regulation and interference by, or unneeded interference by government into the economy itself.
So when we look at the markets, especially commodities, looking at the graph here, telling us about how the price of gold has been moving. I mean, like we had a traditional price of 1,300 rands of gold. But now if you're talking about a figure that is breaching the 1,500 mark, as you can see in 2020 there, surely that solidifies the position of gold as a safe haven.
It certainly is coming, it's playing that role again. I think about an hour and a half ago it was at $1,634, which is very close to an all-time high. So with what's happening specifically worldwide with the coronavirus outbreak, people have been rushing into safe havens, and and even traditional safe havens like the yen has been left behind because Japan is in the Far East, and that's the region that's getting the worst affected. And what remains? The dollar and gold. And that's where investors have been moving into.
So what's your interpretation of the price of platinum? I mean, it has been at $800. It went beyond the 1,000 mark. This movement, tell us about how it has been fluctuating.
Well, it's about midweek. It went above the $1,000 mark, as you've said. I think a lot of it on the back of the rest of the platinum group metals like rhodium and palladium, but it's since come below $1,000 again, sitting at about $980. And I think people have just looked at it and said, hang five. You know, it's all very well that all the precious metals are moving up as a safe haven, gold included, but in the end, platinum is still an industrial metal and is still being used in cars. And if car sales are going down, maybe there's going to be a little bit less of a demand. Maybe there's no reason to be that optimistic about that price. But these are all short-term fluctuations in what is at the moment a very volatile market where people are looking on a day-to-day basis what this virus outbreak is doing, whether the fatality rate is increasing, whether the infection rate is decreasing. So one can expect with uncertainty as big as it is, the price fluctuations in things like platinum and gold is going to be as big.
Right. So coming back into the country in as far as corporate South Africa is concerned and accountability, we've been seeing Dudu Myeni in the dock and talking about how she ran down SAA. Now the question is, what do you make out of payday or payback time when it comes to CEOs or senior executives in many corporations in South Africa, both in the public and private sector? Why do we only see Dudu Myeni? What about other people in other institutions who ran down those institutions as far as corruption is concerned?
I think that's one way to take a look at it. In other words, one says, will justice prevail? Will justice prevail? And that is something for justice, if I can call it that. From my perspective, I'm taking a look at it from a business perspective, and whether somebody goes to jail or don't go to jail or is in court or not in court, that's not going to get the money back that's been lost.
I mean, like when you look at KPMG, you look at Tongaat, you look at UJ, I mean, so many institutions. I mean, even Eskom is not doing well. Why are we not seeing OUTA going for all who have been implicated, whether it's allegations or not? But why only Dudu Myeni? Because looking at her as a board member who should be delinquent, is she the only executive in the country who should be declared delinquent?
I can't answer that question because I can only comment on what is happening right now. And at the moment, Dudu is on trial.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think anybody that's done something wrong or has not done something wrong should have their day in court. The big question is, how did we get here? And that is, if I can be very cynical, one can talk about courage, leadership and things like that, but it's been easy to be corrupt. It's been attractive to be corrupt. And the only way to fix a corrupt system is to make it unattractive, whether it be through consequences. In other words, if you do something wrong, there is a consequence. Or, in fact, the easiest way to say, well, you don't have to be corrupt. Business, it's easy enough to do business and make money without having to steal. And that is a successful society. It's not punishing the whole time, but making it easy to do the right thing. And that, coming back to what we started off with, things like overregulation, things like interference. Let people do what they do well, work well, make it easy for them, and then that fringe of society that's corrupt, which will always be there, will be in the minority.
All right. You're parting short on the budget speech next week. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni to touch on many things, just briefly.
Well, he's going to need more money than he thought. We were talking about 150 billion. Obviously, he's going to be short that if we take a look at at what we thought the deficit to GDP numbers are going to be and what it is right now. There's only two ways you can get money, is by improving the economy, which he can't really do. So you'll have to take a look at cutting spending, which is difficult because it will affect a lot of people. Otherwise, try and raise taxes, which will affect less people. So I won't be surprised if we get some kind of increase in your personal tax rate in some form or fashion. Maybe not the rate itself, but certainly through things like bracket creep.
All right. Thank you very much for making
Thank you,
time.
Colin.
Well, that's a wrap on the world of business. And of course, we've heard here Ricus Reeders from PSG